that leaves out the component of motivation. Okay, so
Right.
so I want to bring in the always go back to the aspect of that we are under attack. This is a global war. The war has been going on for over 1,000 years.
Right.
They're at this particular peak because these bastards at the top are afraid of the space aliens coming back, all this other weird shit. But nonetheless, we are here now.
Touchdown.
Hey.
All righty. How are you, Ben?
Pretty good. All things considered, pretty good.
I've been doing 2 out of 3 falls with OBS. Do you ever use that? It's a stupid thing to try and, put a background in and not have you look quite so unkempt and all that kind of thing. But I got to tell you honestly, I think I'm gonna go with a beanie. I think I'm gonna go with that idea because I just that's really a good idea.
You don't, the more you do that clean yourself up kind of stuff, you end up looking more like a bot has put a filter on you.
Yeah, well, I don't think I ever get that good, but but it's just a pain. Then people expect you to, I think if I just kind of looked like a hobo all the time, then I could be okay. I just like, the trouble is when I get out of bed, I look like that guy on Ancient Aliens, with the hair all up there. So, well, hey, before we talk about whatever we want to talk about, I just want to ask you something. So you're the linguistics person I go to. So what do you think about the word iatricide? We have iatrogenics. Iatrogenics essentially means, you're not going to get sick because of the ministrations of your doctor, but he didn't really try to do it. It wasn't like a Mengele moment. Right. But now we've got a different thing going. We've got this thing going where we're in a, and there ought to be some word for that. So I've coined iatricide. Have you ever heard that word talked about?
I haven't heard it used, but that also implies, I was thinking about that, and that has the implication that the person that's doing it is aware of their motivation, that they're actually aware that they want to. So a lot of these people, I don't know that that's the case.
Well, it's not everybody. No, but there are, but at the top of this pyramid, there are doctors that know.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what really.
Those are just simply evil bastards, right?
Right. Well, that's another term for it, I guess. Evil bastard side. Here's what got me thinking about it. Before World War II, we stabilized wheat with iodine. Iodine's a good halide. It makes your brain work better. It makes your thyroid work better. It's good for everything that ails you, basically. In fact, the old time doctors used to bring around drops of iodine. They didn't know what it did, but they knew it did something good. Well, then we had World War II and the Project Paperclip, and people don't realize that most of the goal of Project Paperclip was not the rocket scientists. The number one goal was chemists, and specifically, they filled up our pharmaceutical industry, but they also went to the food industry and the chemical industry in all sorts of forms. And in all fairness, and then after World War II, we stabilized wheat with bromine. At the same time, we were realizing the toxicity of these bromo seltzers and bromide concoctions that the medical doctors had been using. So they took them off the market, but they continued to stabilize wheat with bromine. And we had this huge.
It's even worse now because after the stabilization of the wheat, they now add bromine to the bread making process.
Right. So everything's brominated. And again, you've got an entire industry. This is why I say it is a purposeful side by, chemical industry side or whatever, these people, because you can't tell me that craft food, that all these people don't know this. It's got they hire a lot of big brain talent. It's like in this whole COVID thing, where are the university boys? You can't tell me they're all brain dead, okay, that they just forgot how to read literature, they forgot how to do all these things.
Right. We cannot put this down to incompetency.
Right. So anyway, I just wanted to run that by you before.
I think that's accurate, but I actually think of it that leaves out the component of motivation. Okay, so so I want to bring in the always go back to the aspect of that we are under attack. This is a global war. The war has been going on for over 1,000 years.
Right.
They're at this particular peak because these bastards at the top are afraid of the space aliens coming back, all this other weird shit. But nonetheless, we are here now. And it's getting difficult for the normies to deny the war aspect of it. And this is bringing up some serious issues for the people that are promulgating the war, right? Because they need, through psychological warfare, to keep you in a state of disbelief and suspension of reality as long as possible. And they fear that shock going through the normies, that they're being attacked. So they fear the Pearl Harbor moment. Okay, that was an engineered attack, as was 9/11.
Right.
Both of those were intended to create this emotional shock wave that would go through the society. Now we're under a different kind of attack where they're desperately afraid that that shock wave should occur. I mean, the powers that be, the bad guys that are attacking us, the deep state, they don't want the normies to understand that they're being attacked. They want them to think all these train derailments are organic or by accident or natural, right? All of this sort of thing. Like
coincidence theory.
Right, barges always turn over and contain all this methanol and stuff, right? So as long as they can perpetuate that, they feel a little bit more comfortable, although they're, in my opinion, the deep state's feeling very untethered at the moment, very uncertain of their footing and how things are proceeding.
It seems like they're desperate and kind of flailing out like the caged animal. Yeah. You know, I have to say, one of the funniest things, it's not really, it wouldn't be funny if it would be funny if it weren't so deadly. The funniest thing in this whole thing, you know, they had that movie about white noise, right? About the predictive aspect of this rollover in Ohio. And when that first thing happened, everybody started talking about dioxin. And I've taken some heat for this, but I'm standing by my ground here, because knowing something about chemistry, I looked at what was on the manifest and I said, wait a minute. Besides the fact that you had this movie that told what they were going to do, and this train happens to just crash and roll over exactly where they said it was going to do it, essentially, and it had all this. Now they're without justification, in my opinion, from a chemical standpoint, they're talking about dioxin because it has that imprimatur of Vietnam and Agent Orange and long-term toxicity in the environment. And it turns out that what they're claiming it's going to happen from is because of all this vinyl chloride. And as somebody that understands a little bit of chemistry, it doesn't happen from vinyl chloride. Vinyl chloride is like burning leaves with gasoline, you know, and nobody objects to putting a little gasoline, poof, it's gone. They burned it so they didn't have this thing explode at random at the worst possible time in those cars. Okay, I get that. But the second thing is and so it's like the dioxin would be like if you burn tires in your front yard. People would get pissed off about that. So we got it's bets of bets, as the Japanese say. It's different. It's a totally different thing, and I don't know why they're doing that. But the funniest thing is
that's part of the whole op, though. That's exactly
right. It is.
Okay, so that's exactly why,
but I'm just surprised
that it on fire.
People that should know what's going on, they're buying into this dioxin thing. It's a land grab, and I tell people, don't set your hair on fire. This is not what they're telling you. But my favorite thing is, you know, I don't know if you saw that movie, but I decided to watch that movie White Noise after hearing that it was all this predicted. Well, so then a week or two later after the movie, I said, what, you know, I know these guys love symbols, they love optics. What is it that I remember from that movie? There were two things. One is this huge black cloud that just lingered forever, just like the one that we kept seeing the same photograph of, like the burning helicopter at Quezon. It was like the same thing all over nightly news, same helicopter burning. We get the same black cloud. Okay, so I saw that. But here's the funny thing. This is about a college professor. You can't make this up. And this guy is giving a walk-on lecture. And what's his specialty? He's a Hitler specialty. So periodically he has to mention Hitler. I know, talk about psyop. This is like psyop 101. So they keep mentioning Hitler. And then, when have you ever seen a college professor in America wearing a black robe like an Oxford Don? Zero, right? But he wears this black robe. You'd love this. And then he walks around the classroom talking about Hitler with this black robe on, and it makes him, and at the end he leans forward with his arms up. He goes, Dad, Dad.
Like, Grim Reaper pro stuff, right? Well, okay, so they ignited it just because they needed the optics.
Yeah, right? I think it could be for that. Now it also
no, I mean, so there's the thing. Yeah. There's never one reason.
Right. It's a multitude of things. Yeah.
Right. So from that, the fact that they were going to have to ignite it, they thought, aha, and then here goes all of the PR stuff, right? And so they started engineering it that way. Yes, it's a land grab. They want to try and move everybody into the cities. I've seen some of the reports of the samples, and the distribution of the dioxin in the depth of the soil makes no sense in the way they're reporting it. Okay.
Right, because it didn't
So-
come from the train.
Exactly. So it's like, wait a second, is if this stuff was actually put into this, okay, so here's the thing, the distribution